All right, welcome. What we're doing today is something of an intellectual salvage mission. We're opening a file from a place that exists in deep shadow, a story that doesn't start with an argument, but with a prayer, one whispered in the sun-drenched streets of an old city. It's a story about a miracle, and maybe more importantly, what that miracle might be hiding.
I want you to picture this. You're standing in a packed crowd in Naples, Italy. All around you, you hear this cry rising up. Faccia gialla fa o miracolo. It's part plea, part hope, part demand. And it's all directed at the city's protector, its patron saint. But who, or what, is Yellowface?
So faccia gialla, it isn't a person, right? It's a thing. It's this incredible, revered golden bust of Saint Januarius, or San Gennaro as they call him. And this single object, it sits right at the very heart of a tradition that has defined Naples for centuries, a tradition that revolves around a pretty profound and recurring event.
Okay, so let's get into the heart of it. The whole deal here is the miracle of the blood. Inside a small vial, they keep what is believed to be the dried blood of the saint. A few times every year, the entire city holds its breath, waiting for it to liquefy. If it does, the city breathes a collective sigh of relief. It's a blessing, a sign of protection. But if it doesn't, a deep anxiety falls over the city. It's like a spiritual barometer for Naples' fortune.
And this is where our whole story just pivots on a dime. The source material we're digging into today, which it says comes from the Shadow Cabinet archives, asks a really provocative question. It tells us to look again at this plea, this miracle, and to seriously ask ourselves, are we looking at hope, or are we actually looking at its exact opposite, a deep, paralyzing fear?
And just look at this comparison. It really lays out two completely different ways of seeing the world. On the one hand, you've got the crowd's view. It's a sign of hope, a divine blessing from above. But the archivist's view, it's way, way more critical. It calls this whole thing a pathetic economy of virtue, like a cheap transaction. It's a promissory note on an afterlife, all built on a cowardly fear of existence itself.
And that leads us straight to a really central idea from these archives, what they call the vile economy of the martyr. And the argument here is, well, it's brutal. It says that celebrating a martyr's theatrical death isn't about courage. It's about using their sacrifice as a kind of shield, a way to hide from the messy, painful, agonizing work of true creation, the work of actually living your own life.
So who exactly is this crowd? The people celebrating this economy? The archives have a name for them: the last man. This is a term for people who crave comfort and safety above absolutely everything else. They have no interest in climbing the jagged peaks of personal struggle. They just want to be saved from the effort. They want to live a quiet, safe life down in the valley.
So this is really the crux of it all. From this particular philosophical lens, that desire for an outside savior, for a life with no risk, it's a kind of slave morality. It's a poison you mix for yourself, one that values pity and safety over the painful but totally necessary conditions for real growth, for what the text calls true creation.
Okay, so if this is the mindset, this worldview, then who's the architect behind it all? The archives introduce us to this fascinating symbolic figure, an archetype they call Salvio Pallidо.
Now this Salvio Pallidо, the so-called Pale Redeemer, he's not a literal person. He's more like an embodiment of an idea. He is the spirit that champions preservation over creation. He's that little voice inside that convinces you to build a beautiful, comfortable, polished cage for your soul, promising safety, but really only delivering confinement.
So what's he selling? What does this high priest offer his flock? It's a simple and honestly very alluring trinity. First, he offers safety from all harm. Second, he promises comfort in all things. And what's the inevitable result of those first two? Number 3, stagnation. A complete and total stop to all growth, all risk, all becoming.
And this is such a powerful way to put it. This is his method. How do you get rid of the fear of falling off the tightrope? You don't teach people balance. No, you just lower the rope until it's touching the ground. So sure, there's no risk, but there's also no height, no view, no achievement.
Wow. I mean, this is just a devastating line. The archives claim that a soul like Salvio Pallidio's, one that's only concerned with preservation, one that has dodged every fire of passion and creation, is so lacking in substance that it can't even be damned. It's simply insignificant. Literally, too small to burn.
But okay, after just tearing down this public miracle, the archives don't leave a vacuum. They propose a totally different kind of miracle. Not one that happens in a glass vial, but one that happens inside of you.
They call it the liquefaction of the soul.
And this is it. This is the alternative, the liquefaction of the soul. It's a completely internal transformation. It's about that moment a heart, frozen solid by the need for safety and predictability, finally begins to thaw. It is a conscious choice to stop waiting for a savior and to instead dive headfirst into the chaotic, untamed sea of life itself.
I mean, look at the difference here. The contrast is just night and day. One miracle is external, passive. It begs for safety. The other is internal and active. It seeks creation. One fears the storm and prays for it to pass. The other embraces the storm and learns to find balance within it. It's the difference between reliance and relentless affirmation.
So an awakened soul, from this point of view, doesn't look at the martyr and feel pity. It kind of laughs at that whole self-important performance. It sees that path as a dead end. Instead, it chooses to affirm everything about life: the joy, the pain, the beauty, the brutality. It says yes to the whole package, without asking for some kind of cosmic discount.
So, after all that, where does this leave us? Well, the archive doesn't just present a philosophy and then walk away. It actually issues a challenge. It's an invitation, a call to walk that same tightrope that Salvio Pulido tried so hard to hide from you. And the very first step, according to these archives, is an act of, well, it's an act of violent self-liberation. It says you have to shatter the uncanny mirror that Salvio Pulido holds up to you. You know the one. It only reflects your limits, your comforts, the polished, stagnant ceiling of the gilded cage he built for your soul.
But here's the thing. This isn't meant to be some lonely quest. The archives put out a call for companions, a search for others who are just tired of the quiet desperation down in the valley, people who hear the call of those distant, jagged peaks.
And this is so key. This whole idea completely redefines success. See, the art of the tightrope isn't about never falling. That's impossible. It's about learning how to find your balance while the gusts of creation and chaos are blowing all around you. It is a constant, dynamic dance, a reckoning between what builds you up and what tears you down.
And so the file closes. Our time with the archivist is over. But the central metaphor, the challenge itself, that doesn't just disappear. The tightrope is still there.
And that leaves us with this, a final, very direct, very personal question. The path of safety and the path of creation have both been laid out. The wire is waiting for anyone who is willing to say yes to that sea of becoming. The only question left is the one you have to answer for yourself.